We go. Here we go. Here's that moment of truth. We got it's Monday. It is Monday. I think all right, I think YouTube is awake. Rockfin, are you awake? Rockfin, not awake yet. All right, YouTube's a little quicker today. Twitter's a little quicker. There's Rockfin. Takes turns. Someone's first, someone is not. Well, Twitter's always first. Twitter always beats everybody else. Then usually it's a mixed bag. It's a toss up, really, between Rockfin and YouTube. Today YouTube was quicker. Tomorrow could be a different drill. Anyway, what's up, everybody? Happy Monday, new start of the week, and good afternoon to both East Coasters and West Coasters. You may know this already. It's the second Monday of the month, which means it's MMT Monday, which means the show starts a little later than usual. To people listening to the podcast later, the showtime doesn't really mean anything to you. Or to people watching this stream later, once again, doesn't mean anything to you. But the MMT Monday part, that does mean something to you. This is where we talk about an issue related to modern monetary theory. And my guest getting me through this, well, first of all, before I bring him in, let me thank the people who make this show possible. Our friends over at Indie Left. Indie Left is the only place to find all the content creators you know and love. They update a list twice daily where they compile all the streamers and writers and articles that you know and love, and they just make a nice, convenient list for you to find out everything they got going on and to subscribe to their Discord. They're dancing over at the Discord. Check them out at independentleft.media. All right, without further ado, again, MMT Monday. And today, MMT, of course, is modern monetary theory, and we're going to give you a quick snapshot on what exactly that is if you're a first-timer. But today's topic is student loan debt and some of the recent statements made by Nancy Pelosi. I almost said pollution. That's appropriate. What if we started calling her Nancy Pollution? I'm going to try to get this to stick. But that's not her name. It's Nancy Pelosi. I like pollution better. I mean, I don't like pollution better, but you know what I mean. Anyway, let me bring in my guest from the Activist MMT podcast. Please welcome back to the show my MMT guy, Mr. Jeff Epstein. Not the bad one, the good one. What's up, Jeff?
Hey, Ron. How you doing? Hi, everybody out there.
Good to see you, buddy. So,
Nancy Pollution, you got something. You got something there.
I hope it sticks. I really do. I'm gonna roll with it. Nancy Pollution. Yeah. So, good to see you. And today, well, first of all, I know we do this every month, but let's do it again in case anyone is a first timer and they are not familiar with modern monetary theory. What is the very brief Cliff Notes, less than 30 seconds explanation on what modern monetary theory is for any first timers?
Sure. I think that's a great idea to do that. So I like to say this in two different ways. Modern money, I say modern money theory, but a lot of people say modern monetary theory, including Stephanie Kelton. So that's fine. MMT is an explanation of how the economy actually works. So we all, the economy is what it is, but we all see it through very, very blurry, discolored, dirty glasses. MMT just puts on clean, perfectly focused glasses so you can see the economy as it actually is. MMT shows that if something needs to be done, and we all know that things need to be done, and if we have the things that it needs to be done with, that things to do it, the people and the stuff and the energy and so on, then it can be done. It has nothing to do with money. And my other way of saying it, I have another way of saying it, and it's skipping my mind at the moment, but I will bring it back when I think of it. So that's one way to think of what MMT is. It just simply shows that if we have the things to do something with and we need to do something, we can do it. We have the ingredients for a pie. We want a pie. We can make a pie.
Because we create our own currency, or basically the powerful creates our currency.
Correct. Yeah.
Awesome. So let's get into today's topic, student loan debt. And you wanted me to share this with everybody. I have a feeling a lot of folks already saw this video, but it's a doozy, everybody. Are you interested in the right-wing arguments against free college? What if those right-wing arguments are made by a so-called progressive, so-called according to her? Only in the United States would such a thing happen. Only in the United States. But here it is. here's a doozy of a video from Nancy Pelosi arguing against free college, tuition-free college. Most other industrialized nations in the world, they have either very affordable or completely tuition-free college. Here in the United States, most people enter crippling amounts of debt if they want to get a higher education. And no one sees this as a problem. Well, a lot of people do. But we just kind of accept, oh, we can't possibly do better than this, except we totally can. Everywhere else figured this out except for us. And here's Nancy Pelosi, who's supposed to be the alternative to the right wing. She's not. She is right wing herself. In any other Democratic experiment, she'd be considered far right. In any other Democratic experiment, the Democrats would be your furthest right option. The Overton window in the United States is dystopian. It is dystopian and bizarre. But here's a doozy from her. We'll just play the video.
That would be an attitude that people would have. But even take it on top of that, suppose your family was not, your child just decided they want to, at this time, not want to go to college, but you're paying taxes to forgive somebody else's obligations. You may not be happy about that. But you know what? We want all of our kids.
They won't use the word debt. They say obligation. They want to make it a little more flowery. Anyway, let's continue.
To reach their fulfillment. To the extent that they want to go to college, we do not want them to be prohibited from doing that for financial reasons. I've had high school students come in here and say with their grades, they're able to be accepted in the Ivy League here and there, but their family's economic situation does not enable that to happen because they have to stay close to home to work, to be part of the family situation. So what we'd like to do is have an economy that is fair, that gives opportunity and does not hold anybody back because of financial reasons. And again, how some people may view the relieving people of this obligation has to be viewed in a fair way, where we have something that gives opportunity. That's the big word, opportunity to all of America's families. Yes.
So, maybe if you're not, this is amazing. This literally has well, I don't drive a car, so why should I pay taxes for roads? I don't have any kids, so why should I pay taxes for public schools? It's the most, it's beyond just a conservative argument. I mean, it is like an Ayn Randian level, like rugged individualism argument. And it's bullshit on multiple degrees.
It is.
It's bullshit from a moral component. It's bullshit from a societal component. And it's bullshit from the component of how the economy actually works. Yep. So, well, let me get your take on this. Why did you want to bring up this particular sound clip?
It is disgusting on so many levels. She, in one breath, she says, we want to give everybody the opportunity to go to college. And in the other breath, she says, but if your kid doesn't want to go to college, then you shouldn't have to pay for other kids to go to college. What's the concept of society? What's the concept of society? Do we want to give people the ability to go to college, or do we not? And even if our kids don't want to go to college, do we benefit from our neighbors' kids going to college? Do we benefit? What benefit do we get from, if other people build a garden, I don't want to participate. I still benefit from that garden. I still benefit from the activities done by the community that surrounds me. So that's one thing. And the other thing is, that's not how the economy works. Our individual taxes don't pay for other people's stuff. And she's assuming that it does, or she's playing off of as if it does, which means that, oh, well, if those kids across town, they want to go to college, we shouldn't have to pay for it. But that's not how the economy works. Our individual tax money does not go at the national stage, does not go to any programs. So she's twisting people's misunderstandings of how they think the economy works at a personal level, and assuming that that's how it works at the national level. And then she's twisting that around to saying, oh, well, if you're privileged, we don't want to have to give someone that's not privileged the opportunity to do what our party and our society says that we want to allow people to do.
It's amazing, man. And then even going on just the, just the other like societal commentary of it. Hey, I don't want to go to any of these wars that we're in. I don't think any of them should be happening. Can I opt out of paying taxes that are really going to fund these wars? Can I opt out of that? I mean, it's just so it's mind blowing to me how people will just they'll make these incredible right wing arguments, not even realizing that's what they're doing. I mean, someone once said to me, and they were serious. They were like, I'm against free college because I don't want Donald Trump's kids to be able to go to free college. And I'm like, that's so ridiculous. That, first of all, somebody, and I'm no fan of Donald Trump. You're no fan of Donald Trump. And I doubt anyone watching right now is a fan of Donald Trump. But I would never despise or let the way I despise a certain person or certain policy so much that I would not want a policy for the public good because screw that person. Like, you're serious.
But
like, you have problems. You have problems. No, Jeff, I know there's a million other reasons, and I just named one of 7 billion. But that's the first reason. First of all, if you're willing to overlook a societal good because you despise one person so much, something's seriously wrong with you. I don't want universal health care because I don't want Donald Trump to be able to go to a doctor. Listen to yourself. You sound like a freaking lunatic, first of all. Second of all, what was the other thing I was going to say on that? There was another big one where I was, second of all, like, when you're really rich, that's not something that matters to you anyway. It's not like somebody as rich as Donald Trump or anyone like Donald Trump was like, geez, I guess you're going to just have to go to community college because we don't have free college right now. We just can't swing it for you. No, rich people can buy their way.
Take out a loan. My fabulously rich child.
Yeah. Rich. That's like for an average person finding out they don't have to pay $1 to park versus paying that $1 to park. Mm-hmm. That's what it's like. If we had tuition-free college for people like Donald Trump and very rich people, they'd be like, oh, we don't have to. Okay. That's like finding out you got free parking on the street on a Saturday night. Oh, what a pleasant surprise.
Pete Buttigieg. He pandered. In his presidential run, when he would speak in front of crowds, he would say, we want free college, but not for those rich people.
Yeah, I mean, what the hell?
But think of who he was talking to. Think of who he was talking to when he said that. He would speak to a crowd of reasonably privileged people. And that is a way of saying you're catering to reasonably privileged people who want petty revenge against even more privileged people. And who is the collateral damage, but all of the millions of desperate people who really do need that stuff. So saying that we don't want to give rich kids free college or healthcare, which they clearly don't have. They don't need federal support to get college and to get healthcare because they already pay for it and they go to the best places. So that is nothing more than a way to cater to the privileged who want petty revenge against the even more privileged. And it is just nothing more than using poor people as what do you call it? Holding them hostage to get petty revenge against rich people. It is just killing poor people to pander to privileged people. That's what it is. And it has nothing to do, again, with how the economy actually works, because our individual tax money does not go to anything federal.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so let's get into the meat of today's topic. The big thing they talk about is Joe Biden and canceling student loan debt, which he can do via executive order.
And what did he
Not
promise?
doing it.
And what did he promise? He promised to, I don't know exactly, but promise to cancel up to 50,000, which we could cancel all of it easily. I mean, because think about it.
Well, so wait a second, back up. How? Explain how. For anyone who's like, well, I don't know if he can. Explain why. Yes, he can. To quote President My Boss. Yes.
President My Boss.
Obama. Remember Joe Biden? He called Obama President My Boss.
Oh,
yeah. Yes, we can. So why can Joe Biden in fact do that?
Joe Biden can choose. Well, okay. So the head of the education Department of Education, can choose by executive order, their executive order as the executive of the Department of Education, to cancel all student debt. So all Joe Biden has to do is choose a head of the Department of Education that will cancel all student debt. And that's all that he has to do. And I believe that there's also something with executive order himself that he could also do it through executive order. One of those two methods, or both of those two methods, he can just simply choose to do it. So why doesn't he do it? And why, he went up from 50 down to 10,000, and now he's down to nothing. Now he's down to nothing, even though he campaigned on this. He's so much better than Trump, but
Yeah. So once again, for anyone who says, and Joe Biden himself, he got in front of a camera. He wouldn't say, I can't do it, because he knows that's just a flat out lie. But he kind of skirted around it. Like, he's like, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly what authority I do and don't have. First of all, you're the freaking president.
Well, aside from Joe Manchin.
If you don't know, right. Yeah. If you don't know what you can and can't do, you shouldn't have the gig, which he shouldn't. He's grossly unqualified, which makes him the same as any other president we've had in my lifetime. But, if you don't know what you can and can't do in this regard, you shouldn't have the gig. You even have people like Bernie Sanders now. They're asked about this. They're like, Joe Biden can do this. Joe Biden can cancel student loan debt.
Of course he can.
And they react as if like you're bringing up, oh, Joe Biden could have a bake sale or something. It's like, no, this is student loan debt. This would change our freaking world. This would change the face of our country. This would alleviate the burdens from millions of people who aren't able to buy houses, people who aren't able to get a leg up, people who aren't having children because of this stuff. And they just make it out like, oh, yeah, I guess he could do that, but meh, shrug.
Yeah,
he could.
It's all of these excuses of course I want to, I really want to, and of course you need it, of course, but this is the most important thing. But there's something natural and scientific out there that I simply can't. It's that fault. It's their fault. It's the fault. That's why I can't do it. Of course I want to, but there's something that I can't control that's stopping me. That's always the excuse of, Nancy Pelosi is saying, well, he can't do it because of the stroke of the pen. But of course we want to give everybody the opportunity. So there's always something external to them, so they don't have to say, I just don't want to. I just don't want to. I don't want to give you that because my donors don't want me to give you that.
Right.
And so it brings up, why do we,
Because at the end of the day, they could just erase the debt. They could make any debts whole. We create our currency. They could do all these things. Joe Biden could do it via an executive order. Keep in mind, these are predatory loan practices where they have made, I don't even know how much money off of the backs of people just trying to get an education.
They actually made near zero money. They've made zero money, which is why this is so evil.
The people doing the predatory loans? No, they've made plenty of money, Jeff.
They've
made a lot of money off the backs of people.
92% of student loans in the United States is serviced by the U.S. Department of Education. The U.S. Department of Education is 100% funded by a fully sovereign currency issuer. So they have not made money off of these people. They have simply taken their money and burned it.
Well, okay. I'm not going to have like a semantic, but the private loans, the loans that are private, they've made, you see the statistics of students who it's like, I took out this amount of money. I owe this much in counting. I've been paying it for 20 years. You see that all the time.
Yes, of course, that's true. But it's framed as, yes, there are servicers that whatever 8% that actually do make money off of this, and some service the U.S. Department of Education loans, and they skim off the top as well.
And they're making a lot, and they're predators. Do you want to dispute that or no?
No, they are predators. Right, cool. But what I'm disputing is that the U.S. Department of Education, which holds 92% of the loans, that the money that they receive in student loan payment, that they use that money to pay for stuff, because they don't. Because they are funded by a currency issuer.
Mm-hmm.
So 92% of the loans in the United States is serviced by an entity that does not need revenue and does not use that revenue. And even so, they are still predatory, and they still collect interest, and they still sick debt collectors on you. And yes, there are those servicers that really do profit, but the vast majority of loans is serviced by an entity that has no need and has never had a need for revenue, which to me makes it even more sick. that it's just punishment for the sake of punishment. Student debt is nothing more than future punishment for daring to aspire above your station. That's what it is.
Okay. So this tweet, what did you want to point out here?
That is the reason. So Stephanie Kelton is responding to a Republican tweet that says something to, I can't exactly read it, but something to the effect of, we can't do this.
Senator Bill Haggerty says, I'm on the Senate floor laying out why I refuse to expedite a vote on final passage of this infrastructure bill that adds to the deficit. He's using the deficit as why he doesn't want to vote for this infrastructure bill. And Stephanie Kelton is the author of The Deficit Myth. She's also one of the leading academics in the field of modern monetary theory. She's collaborated with Bernie. And I think like Biden has talked about bringing her in as well. I don't know if he formally has or not. I don't think
she was on an advisory committee while he was after he won, but before he was inaugurated.
Okay. So all right. Is she still though? Do you know?
I don't think so, but it's not like she had any influence anyway, really.
Right. Yeah. So she had a title somewhere, but that's the extent of it. Yeah. And what she says to this tweet, she says he can't vote for it because it adds to our surplus.
So the Republican says, I can't vote for this because it adds to the deficit. He's not saying I don't want to give this to you. But what it really is, because when you say I don't want to add to the federal deficit, that's exactly equivalent. The other side of that transaction is to say, I won't vote for it because it adds to your surplus, our power. It adds to our power, our benefits. It adds to what we have. It adds to our lives. And anything that you give to the poor, to the not rich, makes them a tiny bit more powerful. And then the rich who are, they have this much, that gap closes a little bit, which means they become, relatively speaking, a little less powerful. So what she's saying is you won't give this to us because it adds to our power. It adds to our surplus. That's what he's saying, because the deficit is nonsense. He's pointing to something that doesn't make sense in the hopes that people think that that's the reason why he can't give this to us. It has nothing to do with he doesn't want to. He's pointing to something else that no one can change, that no one can have an effect on.
Do you think that when we hear these excuses, this one related to the deficit, that typically the Republicans use all the time, but the Democrats do too? I mean, you can find, Joe Biden tried to use that to justify cutting Social Security. And then what we were talking about earlier, these ridiculous excuses against tuition-free college. Oh, what if your kid doesn't want to go to college? Or, oh, what if rich people get to go to free college too? Do you think it's straight up gaslighting? Like, there's no way somebody like Pete Buttigieg, a guy who, he was a Rhodes Scholar, right?
Yeah.
There's no way he doesn't understand that's nonsense. Like, he gets it. His dad was a Marxist. He gets it.
Right. Oh, and he previously was like big into some Bernie policies. He was like publicly for some Bernie policies, as I understand.
Well, I don't know.
Like Medicare for all. And
I don't know like the timeline exactly. I know that when he was 18, there was that big thing that kind of went viral during the campaign trail. When he was 18, he wrote an essay that was actually a very, very well written essay and incredibly impressive coming from it. I couldn't have written something that good when I was 18. I can't now probably. But he wrote an essay about how when you go into electoral politics, you have two choices. You can take easy street, or you can kind of really grit it out. And he used Bernie Sanders as a comparison as someone who has, really kind of tried to do the right thing, basically. And he talked about how Bernie, struggled to get into the mayorship and really, struggled to work his way up because he kind of always, stood by his principles. So the basics of his essay was you can either stand by your principles and you're going to have a hard road in electoralism, if a road at all, or you can just take easy street, and those are your choices. So basically he looked at his 18-year-old self and said, you're so young and naive. I'm taking easy street.
I want to be transportation secretary.
So he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing.
He is particularly nauseating. He is particularly, like, every word that came out of his mouth, you could see that he was He was doing whatever it took to, to serve the Democratic Party and to, do what, pandering to the privileged with, we don't want to give rich people, of course we want to forgive student debt, but we don't want to give it to rich people. But who was he talking to? He completely abandoned all of those things. And I'm not sure if he ever really believed those things to begin with.
No, I'm sure he didn't.
Or, whatever it is, he became transportation secretary, and that was his payoff for his contribution to the Democratic primary.
There were so many horrible, horrible, horrible people on that stage in the 2020 primary. It was absolutely disgusting.
It was
absolutely disgusting. But I've said this before, and I still feel this way. Pete Buttigieg was the most dangerous person up there.
I think that's probably true.
Because that guy is fucking dangerous.
He would kill you with a smile. Basically.
Well, not just that, but when you think about what that guy is all about, never seen a war he didn't like, really, really buddy with the MIC, had his little shadowy cheat app that operated in Iowa. I mean, that guy, he's got his hand in some dangerous waters, and that's who he rubs elbows with. I would say even more so than a lot of the corporate candidates. I think Pete Buttigieg, he was the most dangerous guy on that stage.
I agree.
We're comparing various levels of shit.
But he was the most convincing. He was the most convincing liar. He was he just seemed so sincere in everything that he said to me. That was what was most scary to me, that what he said sounded sincere. Where Amy, what was her name? Amy, the other candidate. Oh my gosh, she did not sound sincere. Biden didn't sound sincere.
Yeah, she sounded like she was always about to cry. Like it's just like there was something about her where you just kind of were like, "Are you all right? Like, are you okay?"
Yeah.
Like every time she would talk, you just be like, "Do you need a break? Like what's up with you?"
Yeah, it's like all of them were just so obviously not competent as far as getting the lie across. But Pete Buttigieg was just so excellent at it, and that was really disturbing to me. It's like,
yeah, I don't know if I'm with you on that one though. I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, yeah, he knew how to talk the talk, and he kind of had some appeal there. But I think a lot of people kind of saw oh, this guy's freaking nuts. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think a lot of people I don't know, maybe I'm being overly optimistic or I'm downplaying it, but I feel like he wasn't necessarily the smoothest talker up there. I think he's more dangerous because of the elbows, the people he rubs elbows with. That even more so that, although, I mean, I guess as far as smooth talkers go, there aren't a lot of, Kamala Harris does not come off as likable when she talks. Joe Biden does not come off as likable when he talks. Amy Klobuchar. So I guess, in that regard, yeah, he's batting above all of them. And he could actually, I think that Joe Biden literally has the Hillary Clinton problem where it's every time he talks, people like him less. Kamala Harris is the same way. Every time she talks, people like her less. Mm-hmm. So, you have these candidates, they cannot raise their poll numbers because every time they talk, people are more repulsed by them. Mm-hmm. I think Pete Buttigieg, he might not have that problem, which it's pretty sad that leading candidates in our political system don't check the bare minimum requirement of being a politician, which is, hey, when you talk, people should want to listen to you and want to vote for you.
Well,
which shows how broken our electoral system is.
Pete Buttigieg quit the day after Super Tuesday, I believe. So
yeah,
they did the neoliberal shindig. They did the neoliberal shindig the day before Super Tuesday, and then the floor fell out from under the whole everything. And then people just dropped out the day after. So it just shows, I don't know. That day changed everything for me. That was the day that I was like, I gave 5 years to Bernie, and then I'm just like, whoa, it's just it was never real to begin with. But
I'm still not over it.
I never will be over it.
I don't.
It just shows the depth of that. Power. This all has to do with power. And going back to our subject, it's this is all about power. And Stephanie Kelton was saying, you don't want to vote for this because it adds to our surplus. It adds to our power which means it takes away from your power and it takes away from your donor's power. And student debt takes away from your power, because if there is no student debt, then, of course, yes, profit is one thing, but it's much more power, because 90% of it is held by essentially a currency issuer. A currency issuer has no need for revenue. So why are they doing it? They're doing it because they can do it. They're doing it to keep those millions, 40 million, whatever it is, people powerless.
Right.
Powerless. And if they didn't have that student debt, then they could buy houses, which would not just help them, it would help all of the people that they purchase things from, right? And go ahead.
So Stephanie Kelton is talking about the surplus of the human condition, the surplus of the quality of life for our society, the surplus of having an economy that focuses on human good, that focuses on human needs and being stewards to the planet. That's the surplus she's really talking about. Whereas this guy is just talking about a bunch of bullshit. He's just talking about the number that stares back at us, when we're looking at a budget sheet, and it's like, hey, we print our own currency.
A currency issuer has an IOU saying, I owe myself $1 billion. That doesn't make me a billionaire. That's what the national debt is. I owe myself $26 trillion. A currency issuer can't have debt in the same way that a currency user can have debt. What
Right.
Stephanie Kelton is referring to is money. I mean, it does refer to money, because if they spend that much on infrastructure, then that much in paychecks is going to go to the people who work on that infrastructure project. So she is talking about money, but in a grander sense, you're exactly correct. This really is about the human condition, power. I mean, that's what it really boils down to, is power, because money is a tool really for power. Really, it's a tool of who do you want to have power, who do you not want to have power, who do you give money to, who do you not give money to. That's really what it is about. And student debt and medical debt is power. Unburdening that is giving people power. It's taking power away from those who service those loans. And I want to bring up one other thing, if I may, and that is, how do you pay for canceling student debt? What does that even mean, to cancel student debt? Because someone pays whatever, $300 a month for the next 10 years or whatever it is. So
if you're lucky, it's 10 years.
Okay. So, more than that, at a minimum. So what does it mean to cancel student debt? What does it mean to pay for canceling student debt? It means to forgive. It means to forsake revenue of that $300 a month for the next 10 years or whatever it is. So if I service that loan and I stop and I say, you're done, I cancel your debt, I am forsaking that $300 a month from that particular person for the next 10 years. But for a business, they are forsaking $300 a month in revenue that they could really use. I mean, they're predatory, so I'm not very sympathetic for them, but that would be $300 in revenue that they would sacrifice for the next 10 years. But 92% of all student loans are serviced by the U.S. Department of Education. They don't need revenue, because their revenue comes 100% from a currency issuer of the United States national government. So they can't there's no such thing as a national agency sacrificing revenue. So they can cancel debt by sacrificing revenue that they never needed to begin with. They never needed that revenue to begin with. So to cancel student debt for them is nothing. It's just a choice, because they never.
Right. Everything you're saying is right on. And so to interject here, why don't they do it then?
Power.
Yeah.
Because if they cancel student debt, there's nothing to forgive. We're canceling, nothing to forgive. They cancel student debt, then all of a sudden, all of these people, not super wealthy, are now unburdened, and they don't have to choose a job that they have to, I have to get more pay. I'm desperate for a job because I have to pay off this student loan.
And who wants,
I can't.
Well, and just to interject here, and who wants you to have to take that shittier job, or who wants to make sure they pay you less? They're donors. Their donors want you in that situation. Their donors are the people who profit off the private loans. Their donors are the people who want you to push the paper for reduced benefits, for reduced pay. Their donors want all of this to continue.
And even more than
why they don't do it.
And even more than that, going back to Pete Buttigieg being what was a Marxist, he was a Marxist, something to that.
No. His dad
was a Marxist.
His dad was a Marxist professor. So the apple fell far from the tree and into the Ayn Rand library or something.
Yeah, really. Marxism is all about how labor is abused by capital. So even more broadly, when you make people desperate, they are now more desperate for a job, and they will take any job, and they will, when there's not an alternative job for them to turn to, they will take the abuse at that job because they're desperate to not lose their job because there's nothing else out there. And they're also desperate to pay off their student loans, which if they don't pay them off, then they'll have debt collectors sicked after them. So this is even a more broad topic of the power of the labor class, of workers, of unions, where it keeps people unemployed because we don't have a job guarantee. And so it keeps the entire underclass, the entire 90%, whatever, desperate for a job or for a better job, and makes them desperate to, I will take your abuse. I'll take your abuse even for less. Please don't fire me, pay me less and I'll take your abuse. Don't hire that person who's desperate for a job. Don't hire them. I'll take your abuse. But they'll compete with me to the bottom saying, I'll take it for even less. I'll take even more.
Yes.
That's what this is about. That's the more broad topic of this. Is just one aspect of that, of burdening people with student debt is just another aspect of hundreds of different ways of keeping the labor class in the control of the capital class.
And staying on this for a second, dude, because I think you bring up a very important piece that is very obvious, but a lot of people don't take that second to just connect those two dots. Let's say
this is rich versus poor. This is rich versus poor. That is the most
totally
broad way of saying it.
Absolutely, but going on what you were saying about like the reduced benefits, the competing to the bottom when it comes to the job market, and how the powerful like it this way. What it really does, like, let's say you're someone who you're like, well, I don't have any student loan debt. It'd be great if student loan debt got forgiven, but I personally don't have any. So, well, how does this really affect me? Look around you in the United States, where our job market typically has shittier pay, shittier benefits. You get 2 weeks of vacation if you're lucky. In other industrialized countries, they get a month to start. When they have a baby, they get time off. They get decent benefit. Well, their healthcare is not tied to their job. That's a related but separate thing. We won't go into that today. But you look at all those things. Meanwhile, you have these incredibly shittier and shittier options here in the United States, the richest country in the world. If people weren't straddled with student loan debt, that's a problem we could start solving big time. Because then people would have a little more breathing room to look around and go, wait, why do we tolerate this horrible treatment here? Well, we tolerate it because people are desperate and they're straddled with debt. If they weren't, we could start solving the bigger problem of our horrific work culture that benefits a couple elites and nobody else.
This really, I actually, let me just a very, very brief aside. I put the PDF of the study that confirms that 92% of all student loans is serviced by the U.S. Department of Education. Just put it in the chat. This is rich versus poor. Most broadly speaking, this is rich versus poor, which really is kind of capital versus labor. This is about keeping the labor class. This is about keeping workers desperate and keeping what does Marx call it? A pool of unemployed, something to that effect. They need to keep a population at the bottom unemployed, and that is the weapon that they use against the currently employed and the unhappily employed, as saying, oh, well, I know you're unhappy, but you ain't that unhappy. You ain't that unhappy. So you sure you don't want to take my abuse? You sure you don't want to, work that extra hour? You sure you don't want to stay away from your family a little bit more? Because you could become part of them. And that is what they need to keep people, they keep control of people, is that there's a term, maybe someone in the chat, reserve army of the unemployed. Thank you, QIDAO, Cato. I don't know how to say it. Reserve army of the unemployed. That's Marx's term of keep a certain amount, just enough people unemployed and use them as weapons against the currently employed and the currently unhappily employed, to say that I know you're unhappy, but you're not that unhappy. So suck it up.
Well, and that's why they don't like people talking either. They really hate it when employees talk to each other, when people in the office talk to each other. They really, really hate it when labor talks to each other across borders. They really hate that. Wait a second. Why
National
is your
borders?
shop? Yes. Why is your shop unionized and ours isn't? They hate that. And when I say they, I mean the powerful, the elite, the bourgeoisie. And it's kind of, I mean, hey, we don't have to go as far back as Marx. We can go to another great philosopher of our time, George Carlin. They want people just smart enough to push the paper and just distracted enough to not notice the red, white, and blue dick that's fucking them in the ass.
It's called the American dream because you gotta be it's called the American dream because you gotta be asleep to believe it.
Two classic Carlin quotes.
And going back a month, the earth is just fine. The people are
He was so right about everything. Those three things we just said are direct Carlin quotes from brilliant stand-up specials from him. And man, I wish I would have gotten to meet him at some point. I never got to before he died. But
I saw him live once. I saw him live, and the lights came on. It was at the Valley Forge Music Fair near Philly, and the lights came on, and the very first words out of his mouth were, "Do you ever notice why those anti-abortion people are the people that you wouldn't want to F anyway?"
Yeah. You can say fuck on this show.
I'm not. Yeah.
Maybe your kids are walking around or something, but
yeah, no, I know I can.
You don't have to. You don't have to, but you're allowed to. But yeah. Well, that was the yeah. Anyway, we don't need to go off on a Carlin rabbit hole, but yeah, his opening lines were always just the greatest.
He's genius.
Like
He's just genius.
He would just walk out and just kind of like give a metaphorical punch in the mouth to the audience, and everyone's just like in, and
even aside from his jokes being genius, what's also genius to me is that how he has no script, and he was just bam, bam, bam for 2 hours straight. I can't comprehend how you can do that, let alone that it's so amazing.
Well, he wrote his shit. I mean, he definitely wrote his stuff out. I mean, that's why like a lot of his books even had like, some of his bits just written out. So, I mean, he was definitely a writer first. I mean, he himself would say that, but yeah, I mean, his ability to just, yeah, I mean, the volume that he cranked out was absolutely remarkable. But
he's great.
Anyway, so that's why everybody, when they try to tell you that Biden can't cancel student loan debt, it's bullshit. He can. Yes, he can. He totally can. They can do it in a heartbeat. We just explained why. We just explained why they don't. We explained who's profiting off of it. And isn't it amazing that so-called Nancy Pelosi calls herself a progressive? That's comically ridiculous on so many levels.
Two ice cream freezers.
2 ice cream freezers, always stocked full of ice cream. And here she is literally making Ayn Randian arguments. I mean, this isn't even like a conservative argument. Like, this is like far right, rugged individualism taken to the extreme argument against tuition-free college that she's just using. And nobody's going around going, this is freaking nuts.
Because people think that that's how the economy works. My personal taxes go to somebody else at the national level. People think that, and she is leveraging that misunderstanding to cater to the privileged. She's leveraging that, if taxes paid for stuff, then the rich have the biggest say because they contribute the most in taxes.
They contribute, which also, I mean, even just stripping aside, that's not even true either.
Which specifically?
that the rich pay the most in taxes. That's not even true. So it's like the lies are in layers. And I think that every layer is important to debunk.
I agree. I agree. I mean, it's infinite. It's infinite. It comes across, if you don't understand it, it comes across as she wants what's best, and if only she knew better, she would do better. That's how it comes across. You know, even the Republicans, if only they knew better, they would do better. So they think that when they pass something, that it's going to raise the deficit. So I can't do it because it's going to raise the deficit. You know, that would cause something. You know, that would cause something bad that none of us can control. Where the truth is I don't want it. But someone that doesn't understand these things will say, if only they knew better. They're trying their best. So if only they knew better, they would do better, because clearly they want what's best for us. But when you understand how the economy actually works, that really brings into question, but wait a minute. Are they really that dumb? Are they really that dumb to be in this perch of power for so long? Are they really that dumb, or are they really that smart? And they're leveraging these things to keep their donors in power. And it also kind of brings in, you know, someone knows these things. Someone has to know these things. So are they using them because they genuinely think that this is how it works? Or you know, it's just, is it ignorance? Is it feigned ignorance? Is it overt, I know how this works and I'm just blatantly lying? But whatever it is leveraging ignorance, and people believe it. And I think it's partially because, oh, well, we can't have 4 more years of Trump.
Partially. I think it goes far beyond that. I think it's just years and years of conditioning. Years and years. I mean, how long have we been? I mean, both of our lifetimes, it's been nothing but Reagan. It has been nothing but Reagan, which is just rugged neoliberalism for everybody. And these, you know, bullshit austerity arguments, the bullshit pay-go arguments. And it's all complete and utter nonsense.
Yeah.
And we just knocked a few things down within the past 40 minutes. Like, oh, well, I don't know if yeah, you can. You can cancel all the student loan debt. And there's all kinds of reasons why. You have the executive order to do so. Why? Well, because here's who holds these loans. Here's where these loans are held. Here's who's profiting off of them. Here's how it could just be erased. I mean, it's all just right there.
Mm-hmm.
And yet it doesn't happen. And yeah, like you're saying, I mean, I think something to point out too, a really big lesson to learn, they don't want what's best for you. They do not want what's best for you. We have a government who is owned by Wall Street. Wall Street owns both parties. They get to bet on both horses. You're not going to lose when you bet on both horses.
Yep. The election was fair once Bernie was gone. The election was perfectly fair.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's a testament. I mean, and to bring, I guess we'll go here briefly. Like when you bring up how 2020, it still stings. I feel that way not because I thought Bernie Sanders was some flawless, perfect entity who was going to, you know, fly and make everything magic. I feel that way because Bernie would have been a transformational presidency that we had not seen in our lifetimes and that we hadn't seen since FDR. He wouldn't have gotten everything on his agenda done, but he would have gotten some stuff, and it would have been transformational. And the fact that it was such, like, they were never, ever going to let that happen. They were never, ever going to let that happen. And Republicans had no problem losing the White House if it meant not helping people. And Democrats had no problem risking losing the White House if it meant they didn't have to help people.
Yeah, they would much rather Trump than Bernie, of course. And
they would rather have Trump than Bernie. And Republicans, if we would have had an emergency UBI, flip it on the other side too. If we would have had an emergency UBI, which they could have done, Mitch McConnell and his buddies could have gotten that done. Trump would have won. He would still be president. Trump would still be president. If there would have been an emergency UBI before the election and people were getting $2,000 checks a month to stay home, Donald Trump would have won that election. No doubt.
As long as an oligarch is in charge, They don't care who it is.
They don't care who it is.
It's just a matter of the Democratic oligarchs are very slightly more friendly, more pleasant to have a beer with than the Republican oligarchs. But they're both about withholding from everybody else. But I wanted to bring up something else, which was this, Reagan and Thatcher and just neoliberalism, the age of neoliberalism. They put people in government that want to destroy government. Nancy Pelosi pretends that we want to help people, but obviously she's not helping people. She wants to stop government from doing stuff. That's like the whole point, is stop government from doing stuff so her donors can get that profit and get that control. And even more than profit is control over the people and essentially become our governments. Jeff Bezos is essentially part of our government now. And so people now have lost such faith in the government. And it's like we have been abused for 40, 50 years now, our entire lives. We know nothing but being abused by those who are supposed to care for us. And so we say, oh, I don't want the government to do anything because they do nothing well. They don't do anything well. But it's not the tool that's bad. It is those who are wielding the tool. It's like I keep getting hit with a hammer, so let's get rid of that hammer. No, let's get rid of the person who's hitting me with the hammer, and let's use that hammer to actually start building buildings.
Yes.
This is not the problem of the tool. This is the problem of who has gotten control of the tool and who has locked us out of getting control of that tool. The problem is not the government. The problem is not the national government. The national government is a generic tool that can do good, evil, or nothing at all. Those who are in charge, those who are now in front of the levers of power and who have locked us away from the levers of power, they're the problem. The problem is not the institution of government itself. And I see too many people, progressives included, saying that government is the problem. And that is exactly what the neoliberal philosophy wants you to believe.
Right.
Get government out. Let's do even more free market, which is exactly promoting even more neoliberalism. No, the only answer is to get us to the levers of power, whether or not it's possible, whether or not it's likely. That is the only solution, because government is the only tool that can help those at the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, well, and that's why in a lot of other places, like if you went over to Denmark and you started, railing against like, oh, the government can't do anything right. The government, like a lot of people there, and I'm not saying their government doesn't have faults. All governments have faults, and that's just part of it. But like they would kind of look at you like, what do you mean? Like half of my family works for the government. Like it just doesn't make sense to places where government runs differently. And systemically, I agree with you on the micro level. I see that there's other tools in the toolkit of change beyond electoralism, but yeah, it really is just the concept of government and what it means to be governed and to have laws. I think you hit the nail on the head to
and
go
it's
back
really
to your hammer analogy. It's like it can be good, evil, or nothing at all. And we have a combination of evil and nothing at all.
When you give up on the corrupt politicians, I stand with you. I stand with you with their corrupt politicians. They will do anything. They will use any generic thing and use it for bad. When you are against the concept, the very institution of government, I stand against you, because the institution of government is a reflection of us. If you're against the institution of government, you are against the very concept of society and community and our very possibilities as human beings. And we have let go and allowed this to happen. We are partially responsible for what is happening right now, for falling asleep and enjoying our little privilege and allowing this to happen. But if you give up on the institution of government, then you are giving up on ourselves. You are giving up on us as society, as a community, as a family.
Yeah. No, I that makes sense. Although I am also somebody who does not do much on the state or federal level and prefers to act locally.
There's nothing wrong with that, but because it is kind of hopeless. It doesn't change the fact that it is kind of hopeless.
Right.
It feels like it will never be possible. When will we take, when will we take over? What will it take to take over? There's infighting.
It's going to take everything. I mean, that's the thing. It's going to take everything. And that's why I think a lot of people, when they bicker about these finer details, they're really overlooking the fact that it's like, well, everybody has their lane to occupy. And if one person's lane is mutual aid efforts and community building, and, organizing protests, organizing strikes, and someone else's lane is electoralism, neither one of those two people are right or wrong. But if one starts blaming the other, that's where we have a freaking problem. I think to people where electoralism is their lane, I'm like, all power to you. But it takes an inside-outside approach, right? Here's outside.
I think
I'm one of the outside, baby.
I'm kind of giving up on electoralism. We got to get, electoralism, voting for people. Oh yeah, great. That works really great for us. Yeah, that, make phone calls. I made how many hundreds, maybe thousands of phone calls for Bernie over there. It didn't do anything. It didn't. So following their rules to get into their levers of power that they are currently at is not working. That doesn't mean that, taking over the government is not necessarily electoralism. I mean, that's obviously has to be part of it, but that can't be.
It's part of it.
But I'm afraid that too soon from now, Medicare for all is going to be the least of our concerns, and that we are going to suddenly see the urgency of, whoa, having healthcare, being able to go to the doctor is suddenly not so important as having clean water, clean food. I mean, things are going to get much more serious where all of these, where you were saying just a few minutes ago, everybody has their own lane of what they like to pursue, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's at some point, I think a little too soon down the road, these are going to suddenly feel like luxuries, where we're going to get into, clean air, clean water, clean food. We're going to get into, having electricity in our homes. This is going to get a lot more serious. And then suddenly, hopefully it won't be too late, but that's suddenly we're going to start to come together of, oh, this is serious. Now we have something to get around. But we already should be getting around this. This is already that serious, but people have privilege. People have privilege. Yeah. I have a house. I now have a house, my first house. I have privilege. Yeah, I mean, thank you. Congratulations. And it is the best for my family. But I also feel like this is not making the world a better place. My getting this is not making the world a better place.
If you feel guilty for having shelter, I think you need to have a glass of water. That's a bit,
This is beyond shelter. This is, but I mean, whatever.
It's a house, Jeff, and you have a family. Enjoy your house.
It is the best for my family. But anyway, you know what I'm saying. It's just privilege. People.
No, I get what you're saying, but come on, dude. You can't beat up on yourself for living in a house.
Okay. I don't know.
You're being too hard on yourself now.
No, I really don't. I really don't think I am. I mean, it's just there are how many millions of people.
Well, what's your alternative? Like,
how many millions of people don't have what I have, don't have what we have? And it's, no, am I beating myself up? No, this is what I'm doing. But it is the American dream. What is the American dream, though? How many people have been knocked off of that pedestal so I can have what I have? I just need to recognize that I am here. How much suffering was caused by my path to get here? And I don't mean me directly. I mean the history of this house, the history of zoning laws, the history of loans, predatory loans. How many less privileged people were knocked off of that perch so that I, a white person, could get it? I have to recognize that. And yes, at the same time, this is exactly what I need to do for my family. So.
No, I understand that. And you're not wrong. It's just a matter of, that analogy where it's like, if you really want to help somebody with their mask on the plane, you gotta fasten yours first.
Of course.
I mean, it kind of goes into that. I mean, yeah, if we all dwell on, all of the ills of the world, all of the ills of the world where, we have, like, some of us have collectively benefited from, you'll never sleep again. None of us. Of course not. And you'll never sleep again. We're all on stolen land. We are all on stolen land.
Backs of blacks and blood of Native Americans.
Absolutely. And that's it's horrible. Sure. But, you still have that choice to kind of say, well, what can I do to just try to make the world a better place? What can I do to try to make sure someday when I'm dead, I left this place a little bit better than how I found it, or at least did everything in my power to leave it a little bit better than how I found it. Whether it's on a micro level or a macro one, it's like you still have that choice. And, feeling guilty for having shelter, I just don't feel like that's the most constructive use of bandwidth. You get what I'm saying?
You get what I'm saying as well.
I
It's
get what
just
you're saying as
recognizing
well.
this is more than I could have less.
I'm just saying,
could have less,
I'm just saying, as your friend, if I found out you're like whipping yourself with a chastity belt or something, I'm going to have an intervention. That's all I'm saying.
That's what I have my wife for. Come on.
Oh, right. Well, that's fine. That's something
I'm in
totally
such trouble. Don't anyone tell her to watch this. Okay.
All right, buddy. Where can everyone go to learn more? Because again, this is the second Monday of the month where we do an MMT centric topic. This month was student loan debt and what was going on in the news. But we do this every second Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, which deviates from the typical Get Your News On with Ron time. But that's how we roll every second Monday. But where can people go to learn more, Jeff, if they want more of your MMT-centric content?
Well, before I answer that question, as soon as I get off of this, as you know, I just moved here, and this is one of the first things I'm doing with my computer in my new place, and I am ordering tickets to your show on October 9th. 9th, or whatever it is, 9th
yes,
and 10th.
October 9th. October 9th.
As soon as I get off, I am ordering tickets to that show. Everybody else, order tickets to that show.
Well, that is very kind.
And look forward to seeing you about 20 minutes away. Where they can find me, they can find me on Activist MMT on Twitter, Activist MMT on Facebook, and activistmmt.org is my website for normal people to learn about MMT, but it guides you to the works of the actual economists when you're ready for more. And all of my podcast episodes are on there. And of course, please subscribe to my podcast. I'm about to release episode, 80 something, 80. And I would like someday to have you on, sir, kind sir.
Anytime, man. Let me know. I mean, you are the more well-versed in this field than I am, but if there's anything that makes sense for me to be the guest for, anytime, man.
My podcast is half about personal stories about how MMT changed you, and you clearly have a story to tell. And it is pretty nice to have had played a small part in your learning MMT. So not learning, but becoming introduced to MMT. So that has really been a nice little thing. So man. Of course I want to hear your story.
Oh, that sounds great, dude. I can't wait to do that. Yeah, please, anytime. Let's set that up. And thank you for mentioning my tour. I appreciate that so much, Jeff.
Of course, I will be there. Yep, I will be there.
Yeah, and for everyone, you can go to ronplacone.com, get tickets. We have announced a ton of dates. Get your tickets now. Don't wait. San Francisco, Sacramento, Los Angeles, Tempe, Tucson, Detroit, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, baby, New York City, Washington, D.C., Asheville, North Carolina, Jacksonville, Gainesville, Orlando, Miami, Tampa, Nashville, Louisville, Indy, Chicago, Minneapolis, Madison. Get tickets now, ronplacone.com. Atlanta, we're trying to figure it out. Still working out the details, but tickets are available now. Don't wait, ronplacone.com. And one last announcement, if I could.
And maybe in Philly, maybe there'll be a little bit of music. Maybe.
I'm thinking.
And I have a guitar now. I have a guitar now.
Dude. Oh, man. Last time Jeff and I did some music together, so that might have to happen again.
Yep.
I'm excited.
And I have to say, every single video of Ron Placone, I'm in. How awesome is that? Go ahead. One of the little thrills of my life.
You're the high theme on the theme song. You're the high harmony. The high harmony. Folks, my movie trailer drops officially tomorrow. It's soft dropped today. Patrons, you can view it now. Rockfin Premium, you can view it now. The trailer is officially going to drop tomorrow, and I am so freaking excited. There aren't words. I'm just going to leave it there. Some of you may have seen it already. In fact, someone in the chat asked, was that Gareth Reynolds? Yes, it is. Gareth Reynolds from the Dollop podcast plays my brother in this movie. Yeah, the trailer officially drops tomorrow. We're going to launch a GoFundMe to try to break ground on the film itself. And I'm very stoked. And in the meantime, check out Jeff's podcast, Activist MMT. And you know the drill in the meantime. Let me give a shout out to someone's pet. Today, we got Scott, and that's Cooper the cat. Let me give you a like here, Scott. Cooper the cat here. That's an adorable cat. Cooper says meow, and Lucy says meow. And I say peace, and Jeff says peace, and learn MMT. And we'll see you all. Well, I'll see you all tomorrow. Jeff will see you the next second Monday of the month.
And in October in Philly.
And in October in Philly, baby. Check out Jeff's podcast. Oh, wait, I did the wrong. There we go. Wait, no, I still fucked it up. There we go. Yeah, we did it. We did it. All right. Peace, everybody. See you tomorrow.
Bye. Thank you.